Good morning.
Good morning.
Today we have Humans of Oseredok interview with Elaine Kisiow.
Pleasure to be here.
We're happy to have an interview with you, and I have a few questions for you.
Absolutely. I'll do my best to give you some insights into why I volunteer.
Yes, and that's actually my first question. Why do you start and why do you continue to volunteer at Oseredok?
Well, I started in August or September of 2011, and I started working in the boutique Thursday afternoons for about 3 hours with a friend of mine who encouraged me to come down. And even though I was new to volunteering, I wasn't new to the presence of Oseredok because I had grown up with knowing about the institution, and I knew that when I retired from the province of Manitoba that I would volunteer here just instinctively. And it just morphed into starting off very, very slowly. And 10 years later, 11 years later, I have had a long history of volunteering here, from the boutique to starting off with grant submissions, then working on projects, and now I'm on the board of directors and I'm chairperson of the marketing committee. So it's come a long way.
Yeah, so you keep contributing to
Yes.
Oseredok for many, many years.
In different ways, and I think that's the challenge of volunteerism, is if you find a place that you're comfortable with and your skills are respected and needed, that just can be a platform for engaging in different aspects of volunteerism at whatever organization. Certainly for Oseredok, it's provided me with different levels of expressing myself and having other volunteers and full-time staff respecting that, but at the same time having dialogue about what volunteers can bring in and how they fit into a non-for-profit heritage organization, which I find is extremely important for me and important for others.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You brought a lot to Oseredok, but what have you learned during all these years and all this time volunteering here?
Well, I have learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from the volunteers' perspective because I never had volunteered before. I was always a full-time civil service employee that did not work with volunteers. So I've learned how to adjust to different ways of thinking. I've learned how to really respect permanent staff and what they bring into an organization. I've learned how to better communicate my ideas, and I've learned that volunteers are a real critical component of non-for-profit organizations, and that you can bring a skill in, or you just may not have anything to offer, and that's another thing. If you just don't feel the fit, if you don't feel that what you have is what they want, that's also fair too. So I've learned and certainly a lot more about teamwork. I worked, with teams as a full-time employee, but never a volunteer of a team. So it's a different perspective. So I really appreciate that kind of balance that I've learned.
Okay, thank you. Well, I know that you, for their 11 years at Oseredok, you participated in many events and you organized a lot of them. So what is your favorite event or maybe memory from Oseredok?
Well, I have two really favorite events, and the certainly the public who attended would remember the Boberski event, Still Standing, which was again a venue that allowed many of us full-time and volunteers to work as a team to bring a significant aspect of Winnipeg history to the forefront in terms of photographs, archival photographs, and building a theme around it. That was one of my first real entries into teamwork, and it was the spirit that we brought into it that was partly made for its success, and the people that I had the ability to work with that I still work with. And then, of course, was our Manitoba 150 event last year, which was, of course, stymied in many ways by COVID-19, but at the same time, it allowed us to persevere. It allowed us to rethink the project, but we also knew that we were going to do it, so we had to find a way of doing it. And we adapted to the times, and when it opened, it was a resounding success. And again, it was an example of, I would use that, of perfection of teamwork. And you can't say be a team. You can create a team, and you can use each other's energy. And that's the word that we defined ourselves when we did Ivan Bobursky Still Standing and Manitoba 150, is using our energy to help create remarkable events that people still talk about and that we still talk about. So those are really two of my favorite.
They're always going to be in history of Oseredok.
Absolutely.
I know there is a story behind how you decided to organize Manitoba 150. If we can hear about it.
Yes, there was a story. There was a story. It was a Saturday morning, and I get the Winnipeg Free Press to my door. And I always go through the social column first. And there was an ad, a half a page ad from the province of Manitoba, asking for Manitoba non-for-profit organizations to apply for funding to come up with an event, one day or many days, art and culture, portraying their vision of what Manitoba is to them. So I looked at it and I said, well, we can do this. So I took a snapshot of it and I sent it to Yulia, and about 5 minutes later she said yes. And I emailed her back and I said, well, that yes means a long-term commitment. Either we do it or we don't do it. And we were already on board the minute she said yes. And then, I guess it was about 6 months later, we were given the news that we had been approved for the funding. And then from that point on, we just started coming up with ideas and mechanisms to put this 150 event together. And then COVID hit. And that, of course, as it did with many organizations, put a stall on what we were doing. But we were not prepared in any way, shape, or form to pull out. We just needed to do that. And that's where we began to use the word perseverance. We will persevere under whatever circumstances we have to ensure that we would have this event done. And then there was a little bit of a quietness. COVID kind of lifted, then we were shut down again. So we just kept regrouping and never gave up. And I remember one afternoon, we were about 4 or 5 of us were in the multi-purpose room downstairs. And we just looked at each other and sighed. We had nothing to say because we just had to continue. We just had to continue. And we knew we were going to continue. And the day dawned when we had our opening event, and we had the ambassador from Ukraine and numerous politicians and public who came out to support us, and it was a phenomenal evening.
I remember that it was one of the biggest events that I attended in Oseredok, and I remember it very well.
And that truly, I don't know who pulled out, but I know there were some smaller organizations that just could not continue. And for their reasons, that was their choice, but we just would not. We adapted, but we persevered. And I think that is a quality of our ethnicity, is perseverance, that we've seen time and time and time again, in happy times and sad times and traumatic times. We adapt, we change, but we persevere. And we find a way to open the door and continue, and to embrace people who come in and share that perseverance that we show to other people.
Regarding Ukrainians, and I know that in Manitoba 150 there were different stories of different Ukrainian people from different backgrounds. But what do you think about what is the power of Ukrainians?
I think the power of Ukrainians is very unique to every Ukrainian. I believe that we have strength, we have determination, and we have a picture of who we are. Now, that picture may not be the same as everyone else's. When you walk into the store, when you walk into Oseredok, you can be Ukrainian and you may or may not relate to everything, but you can relate to who you are, you can relate to an identity. And at times that identity is challenged, whether it's from within your family, within your community, within the global atmosphere now. And the power is, for some people, a resurgence of understanding who you are, or it can catapult you into yet another universe of being Ukrainian and how much more stronger you can be and how more understanding you can be and how more challenged you are to persevere and do little things, bigger things, and just understand who you are within the broader context. I know growing up, I grew up in a Ukrainian speaking family, attended Ukrainian Catholic Church, but did not belong to organizations. So my identity was from within the home and within the church. And I brought that identity into my life all the time. And I was blessed with having a huge number of friends from all walks of life. And it did two things. It reminded me that who I am, but it also gave me insight into the fact that not everyone is who I am. And we are so multicultural, and we are so broad, and we are so different. But if you're looking at identity, we all claim our own. And I've always carried that through life, that you have an identity and you work with it if you choose to. And there's other people who can embrace that as you can embrace theirs. So that's the power of being Ukrainian and using it to better the world, better the community, better yourself, and share it with others as they share theirs with me.
I love this answer. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
That's it. That's all my questions for you today.
Anything more, I'd be happy to ask.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you for asking.